internet done?
Yeah. I am off mute.
Yes, and we're live.
We're live. It worked. It worked.
Yay!
Oh my God. Hey, welcome to the Power of You.
Yes, right. Welcome to the Power of You at the unsuspecting time, normally at noon Pacific, but we thought, what the hell? Let's just go today early.
We get to
guy
make
is
this up as
Blaine
we go
Bartlett,
along.
by the way. That's Blaine Bartlett.
And that's Doland White.
That's right.
So welcome to the show. We got an interesting one today. I'm excited about this one. Oh, I say this every time, but I'm excited about this one because it actually is kind of a playful one in one sense. I mean, every leader I've worked with, and and you too. I mean, we both have. When you think of a leader, as an example, yeah. Tell me who comes to mind when you think of a leader.
Oh boy. There are leaders that I've had in my mind that nobody will know, but I think a lot of times when we think of leaders, we think of like there's the Western era leaders, John Wayne, Clint Eastwood, and then God rest his soul, Chuck Norris, and we think we tend to go, yeah, there you go, that's a leader, right?
George Patton standing in front of the flag, yeah,
right. George Patton, yeah, I remember the movie Patton, yeah,
Patton, yep.
Yeah, and George Patton standing in front of the flag, by the way. He was real leaders. As you listen to this, he actually existed. But yeah, I think that, there is that. It's funny you mentioned that because that's I think that's the concept of what a leader is. That I'm ready to go.
The John Wayne swagger, just kind of
Yeah, I could do my best, John Wayne.
It's kind of like the Duke. Yeah. Go ahead, make my day. Going the other direction with Clint Eastwood here. So all of this points to tell you what, Pilgrim.
That's right.
We're talking today about leadership presence. How you show up. And what is that all about? Because it's actually not just about charisma. It's not about puffery. It's there's actually, you got to pay attention to it. Because when you show up, here's the idea here. What do leaders do at the end of the day? And I don't, you can be Mother Teresa or you can be George C. Scott playing Patton. You're causing movement. Okay. Now, Mother Teresa did it differently than George Patton did. John Wayne did it differently than the Cisco Kid did. I'm going to date myself with some of these references. Hey, Cisco. So presence is not about characteristics. Presence is not about the visible piece necessarily. It's kind of what kind of movement are you generating from the energy that you actually exhibit before you've ever opened your mouth.
Right.
Before you've ever opened your mouth. That's what we want to look at here today. And we're going to call that leadership presence. And in the military, and I've done some work with leaders in the military, leadership presence. Yeah. This is one of the things that OCS, I mean, you're taught, leadership presence.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yep, same sort of thing. They're talking
same sort of thing.
It is your talk presence. We'll test everybody. I'll refer to you as Kimo Sabi several times, and we'll see.
Well, thank you.
The first person that can answer in the comments who Kimo Sabi is, you get a virtual $1. There you go.
This will be part of the participation.
I'll send you a picture of $1. There you go.
So leadership presence, the power of you, because there is power in presence. Matter of fact, that's really the only place that power exists is in your presence.
Exactly.
So what is it? Let's kind of play with this a little bit. We typically will start with, okay, where do we screw up? Because we're not paying attention to fill in the blank, whatever the topic of this Power of You is this week. So
Right.
if you're not paying attention to leadership presence, if you really aren't aware of even what that is, there will be some significant mistakes that you're going to have to go back and clean up. And you didn't have to make them. You didn't have to make them. So one of them, and we'll just kind of go real quickly through these in order here. The first one is ignoring something that we call the bow wake.
Oh,
and we're going
boy.
to talk about this in a little bit. But the bow wake,
Yeah.
imagine a boat going through the water. It's got this water in front of it, this bow wake, this wake of water that kind of is in front of the boat itself. And what's interesting about the bow wake, and again, we'll talk about this in a little bit more detail, but it is an indication of how much resistance is being generated by the boat as it moves through the water. And what you can think of leadership presence is in the context of how much resistance are you creating in your organization, with your team, with your people, as you move through the metaphoric water of your organization. What is your bow wake? What comprises it? Those sorts of things. So we're going to
fun.
a little bit of time
As watermen, that'll be fun to unpack.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, and then the next one, not appreciating that communication isn't logical, it's biological. And we'll also get into more of this too, as we're talking about from a presence perspective. A lot of, it's easy as a leader. The mistake is that you think, hey, I explained it. And you missed all of the biological signs.
Yeah.
You missed the three components, the mind, the heart, the gut, right? That goes into that. And to Blaine's point, where you get, they're in the chair like this going, yeah, this too shall pass. Yeah. Okay. Do you agree? Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Okay.
Yeah.
No, you don't. But communication isn't logical because we're dealing with people. It's a collection of relationships. It's a biological thing, how we communicate.
Yeah. Which literally leads into that third mistake area, which is believing that you have effectively communicated because you took time to wordsmith. Yeah, you actually, and this is interesting because you took the time. You took the time. What's the best way to position this argument? Yeah. How can I? And politically, we look at it through the lens of spin. Yeah. How can we spin this effectively?
Yeah.
And that that's a mistake. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll look at that here in a little bit as well, because we got walk talk mismatches that go on here.
I love that. And when you're wordsmithing, you wordsmith to win. I'm setting up winners and losers, and I am not going to lose, by God. I'm going to win. So I'm going to set up my words to win, which hooks into that last bullet. Funny how all these stitch together. Lack of awareness about the impact of their story, not your story, their story.
Yeah.
And when you're not aware of that, you are just think of those times when you are working with your partner or a family member or a child, and you are not in alignment with their story and what that impact is like, not only on you, but even more importantly, the impact on them.
One thing that I'll oftentimes bring up in the coaching work that I do with clients is specifically if we're in a conversation around leadership presence, is how do others feel about themselves when they're in your presence?
Yeah.
Now, you haven't said anything. You're just kind of being there. How do they feel about themselves? Do they feel invited? Do they feel honored? Do they feel seen? Do they feel heard? How do they feel about themselves? What's the story that they are working with, and what's the story you're feeding in the way that you're interacting with them? So there's actually two sides to that one, that story coin. Because the story about you as a leader gets in the room before you do, and they're interacting with the story they made up in their mind about who you are, what you want, and what kind of a person is going on, is showing up. And then from the other side of that, they've got a story that they're trying to live out, that they're paying attention to. And if you aren't, and this is, we'll talk about the for the sake of what here. All of this last one has to do with what matters. And if we're not paying attention to what matters, things get squirrely really quickly.
Yeah, technical. There's that technical term again. There it is.
Squirrely. So how do these show up symptomatically? Because these are mistakes that typically get made, and there's more than just four, but they have some symptomatic analogs. I mean, you will actually be able to identify something in the system, something in the way that things are either working or not working. Leadership attention is focused on what can I do to move my people? So it's a me focus. And we go back to that whole notion of story. Yeah, I'm not paying attention to their needs. They're the story that they are living in that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
And so I'll try to push it. I'll try to push, which actually leads into number two here, which is that pushing activity is usually organized around motivation. The carrot and the stick.
Yep.
And this is where most leaders default into a command and control. I say most leaders. Most frequently, historically, it's been a command and control model that leaders will drop back into. And it looks around, and when you look around, it's about motivation. What's the perk? How what's the sales and what's the incentive we can put in place here? To get these people off the dime. Damn it!
Yeah, we sit at home and we revert back. And we revert back because it's comfort. We love reverting to comfort. It's like putting on that old sweater again that always fit good. That your partner looks at you and goes, "You're wearing that? Yeah, this is comfortable. I'm going to wear this today." And then there is a walk-talk disconnect that produces distrust, and it is that there's a lot of colloquialisms around this. I think, Blaine, around how leaders lead. It's like how you show up, what you say, and what you do. Growing up as a kid, it was. Oh, I'm trying to remember now. The bubble just popped, but it was. I remember being told by my grandfather, "Just do what I say. Don't do what I do."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, various versions of that. Yeah.
Yes. Definitely. And it's kind of like, that makes no sense to me, but okay.
Which leads directly into number four here. I mean, if the walk and the talk don't match, and we'll use the word authenticity as a placeholder here, but it's much more than just kind of throwing the kimono on. Hey, this is just the way I am. Yeah, I'm being real here. He speaks his mind. Well, then damn the consequences. Those sorts of things will quickly erode trust. And so when we're looking at leadership presence, some of the archetypes, is the blustering guy, the one that speaks his or her mind. I mean, you always know what you get from them because they speak their mind, but they got not a bloody clue about that bow wake dynamic. And they are making a mess of everything.
Yeah.
And there is no trust in the system at that point in time. I mean, literally no trust.
Yeah.
Because people are walking on eggshells. They're not quite sure what they're supposed to do or what's going to be happening if they did something, that kind of went in the opposite direction. Right. Because they had information that they didn't want to run up the flagpole. All that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And leaders, as you look at that, think about these. The reason why we dive into we always start with the mistakes you make. And we only keep it to 4 just to be gentle with you. But think about the symptoms. These are things to look for inside of your organization. Look for and listen for these things. Notice what you're noticing.
Yep.
Be aware.
And I'm going to put this little Chiron down here before we go to this next one. We do these once a week. And this is, I think, number 56 or 57. We've got a whole catalog of these powers of you. So the invitation on the table right now is, feel free to just drop in here. Every one of them is archived, and this is a great resource for you as a leader. It's also a great resource for your team. We try to keep these around 45 to 50 minutes long. So it's something you can bring into a team meeting and say, okay, let's watch this and then have a conversation about it.
Yeah. Let's watch these guys.
Watch these guys. Well, because a lot of business meetings, a lot of meetings and organizations are organized around what are we doing, not how are we doing.
Yes. Oh my God.
These powers of you are intended to help you as a leader address the question, how are we doing? How are we doing with each other? And Yeah, leadership is this incredibly vast domain to explore. And like I said, we've got about 55, 56. I've lost count here. But
Yes.
yeah, there's something in there that you can use with your team, guaranteed. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
So take advantage of these. These are curated.
We've been doing it for a while when we don't know how many there are.
How many there are? Yeah. So there's not only the video here, but there's also a PDF of the slides, so that you have kind of a talking document, working document that you can share with people. So back to the drawing board here.
Back to the show.
Back to the show. Commercial's
over. And well planned for. That was very smooth. It was good.
That was just kind of landed right in there.
Yeah, talk about this.
I first was exposed to this saying back in about 1976, 1977. And the CEO of the company that I was working with at the time actually said this in a meeting. And we were talking about, and it was a training organization. And we did a lot of training around literally around the country. And so stage presence, how we position things, how we actually, stood on stage and delivered the content. He invited us to consider this quotation: "Who you are speaks so loudly, I can't hear a word you were saying." And he was talking directly about how integrated was the material in our state of being, such that when we spoke, it wasn't just a rote, reading of a script. It was something that was experienced as being a lived lesson. I live this material. So there's a congruency kind of comes in. Who you are speaks so loudly, I can't hear a word you're saying. So when we were putting the material together for today, I said, okay, I know who I heard say it, but I know that was not an original. So I just did a real quick internet search, and I was surprised. Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote this, and I've got bubble popped here. I forget which writing it was. But Emerson is the one that is attributed to originating this quote. Who you are speaks so loudly, I can't hear a word you're saying. And I want you to just think about that as a leader. Yeah, think about leaders that you've been with, and you hear the noise, blah, 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 blah. But who they are is getting in the way. The signal to noise ratio is too high. And so what we're looking to do here when we're exploring this whole notion of leadership presence is, how can you reduce the signal to noise ratio so that you become the exemplar, if you will, of what it is that you're trying to have happen out there. That's presence. That's presence. You become the symbol of the result that you're looking for your team to achieve.
Yeah, says a lot.
So feeds right into this, specifically the influencing piece. We talk about this definition in every program we do. Leadership is the activity of influencing others in order to co-create coordinated movement in pursuit of a worthy ideal. Now, we're going to hone in on this influencing piece today, because got a great definition the other day around what influencing is. Influencing is the use of power without force. The use of power without force. So when you're influencing others, you're actually not hammering them. You're actually using your presence.
I like that.
Your presence to cause the movement that you need to have in order to get what you want. It's the use of power without force. You do that well, you're getting people to buy in with you, influencing others in order to co-create coordinated movement in pursuit of something that matters. And that's what this last piece here, that worthy ideal. It's not the vision. It's not the goals. So forget about wordsmithing that stuff. No, I say forget about it. You're going to want to do it, but you want to have a placeholder here. But really what you want to have conversation about, and what you really want to answer for yourself, is, why does this matter? What does this matter? Why does this matter? Where does this matter? How does this matter? That's the worthy ideal.
Yeah. And that's so important. And we'll talk a little bit more about this as we get further into it, but it's the difference between inspiration and motivation.
Absolutely. Yep.
You know?
And that goes back to one of the, I think it was the second mistake that people make. They focus on motivation at the expense of inspiration.
That's right. I'm gonna go back.
Inspiration. Yep.
I'm gonna go get a bag of carrots. So there's gonna be one they like. I'm gonna get a bag of carrots. I know it.
There you go. And I'll have the stick.
Yeah. Get going.
So here's this notion of bow wake. Let's just jump into this. I mentioned the bow wake, the wave in front of the boat. Every boat, and I mean this literally, I don't care if it's a little tiny rowboat, and when you start moving that boat, it will cause a little ripple in front of the boat.
Yeah.
The size of the wake oftentimes is an indication, a pretty accurate indication of how much resistance is being generated as that boat moves through the water. The bigger the bow wake, the more the resistance. And resistance isn't necessarily a bad thing, because another way of saying resistance here is you've got friction. Yeah, it's another way of thinking about it. You got friction as this boat moves through the water, and it's disruptive. And you, as a leader, you are disruptive. Leaders are disruptive. They disrupt the status quo. This is where presence becomes very important, because if you are too disruptive, think of a boat going through a marina. In every marina I've ever been in, and I've run a lot of boats over my lifetime, and so have you. Now, again, wake zone or wake limits, or a no wake zone. A no wake zone do not exceed 5 knots. Sort of a deal.
Yep.
Because if you go through there too fast, all of a sudden you got people that are hollering your name in a very not kind way, because you're knocking everything out
with descriptors.
Yeah, with descriptors. You can also move too slowly, where you're not causing enough perturbation for people to notice.
Right.
And if people aren't noticing, they don't change what they're doing. One of the things that leaders do, and if they're doing this intentionally and mindfully and intelligently, is they're disrupting patterns of behavior, patterns of thinking. And that's what this bow wake structure is a metaphor for. It's a pattern interrupt. It's a pattern disruptor. It disrupts the smooth, calm, harmonious, isn't this comfortable sort of a way that we've been doing things at work. So you show up and you start moving things. It's a disruptor. There's good news and bad news in that. And this is where you want to be mindful of what's going on out there. So that's what we're looking at with the bow wake. And there's a couple of ways to think about this.
Yeah, I love it. Love that conversation around the bow wake. In particularly when you think about that, and those leaders who've never been on a boat, or you go out to a lake and watch people go in and out, or the ocean, watch people go in and out, and watch the effect around that boat on the other boats. It's not that boat. Watch that. Other than that boat will go yelled at or get a ticket. But watch the impact. But one of the things when you're thinking about that from a bow wake is, and I love this slide, Blaine, from a consequences perspective, is that there's a precarious balance. And notice that all of these, they all start with the word what. What's too much? Where am I creating a larger than needed bow wake? What is too much? And that's awareness. That is knowing and being intimate with your team. Remembering that you're in a relationship, and because you're in a relationship, what you're doing is not logical, it is biological. Too much is biological, and same thing with too little. And it is a precarious balance, and it's hard to know. The only way you know that, for all the answer, all of these what's resistance is unintentionally created, what movement is being caused, is to ask and observe.
Mm-hmm.
You have to ask. You have to be in that scenario. How does this resonate with you?
Yep.
Tell me your thought and your feeling, not just your thought and your feeling, which is that biological. The last part of this, the biological piece. The thought is the logic piece, which associates with memory on whether they trust you or not. But the biological piece on how do you feel about this? So when you think about this with bow wake, it's like a barometer for weather. you're measuring against these dynamics. What's too much? Because a lot of times, I love your point around just get to the point. They know what they get. I'm going to come in, coming in hot. And because that's who a leader is supposed to be. And if it's too little, I'm being passive.
Yep.
Now I'm not really being a leader because now I'm being passive.
Yeah. Too much will create fear.
Yep.
Yeah. So then contraction, people start running to the woodpile. Too little. Yeah. It's kind of like, what was that noise? Yeah. Were we supposed to do something?
Sorry, this is a PG podcast that we had. So I want our PG thing. So I'll leave that. I had something about in a skillet, but that's another thing.
Yeah, in a skillet, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh Lordy. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yes.
So just in terms of actionable, I mean, we've talked about what presence is. Okay, now what do you do with this information? I mean, if I wanted to intentionally begin, number one, noticing kind of what might be part of my leadership presence, but also how can I design for success? How can I design and I mean that literally, design my presence, because there's an intentionality in it here.
Yeah.
Leadership presence is expressed as influence. So start with that. Power, the use of power without force. So how am I causing things to move? The power to cause movement without force. How am I causing things to move? The old assumption is I'm their leader and they need to follow me because, damn it.
Because I'm the leader.
Because I'm the boss. That's why I get paid the big bucks.
I always love the tagline behind that. Just, I'm their leader. They need to follow me because I'm ultimately responsible, damn it.
That's the one. Yep.
The board is going to come for me. Okay.
Yep. So because you're afraid of what the board is going to do, you transmit that fear through your presence into your organization.
You do. And some of them are willing to hold the door for you on your way out.
Yes, they
are. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, we're looking at through the lens of our definition of leadership.
Yeah.
Influencing in order to co-create coordinated movement in pursuit of a worthy ideal. Co-created coordinated movement begins with aligned leadership presence. And aligned leadership presence, there's congruence.
Yeah.
And we mentioned right at the very front end here that I become a symbol. It's there's integration that has occurred. And I'm not reading from a script. I mean, I live this body of work. I live this goal. I live this ideal, and it comes through in the way that I show up energetically. So from a mindset perspective, authenticity comes into play here, and there's a growth mindset that comes with that. And authenticity, I'm being real clear here. It's not about throwing the kimono open and just being inappropriately disclosing.
Yeah.
It's about what's appropriate in the situation. There's vulnerability associated with this. People connect through vulnerability. They disconnect through certainty.
Yeah.
And if you can position yourself as being vulnerably present, now you've given people an opportunity to connect with you in a way that allows for co-created, coordinated movement. Yeah, if you've got a big facade up there, they bounce off of it. There's nothing to connect to. Yeah. And that becomes problematic. So that's the mindset piece of it.
Yeah.
And you're continuously growing. How can I be better at this? How can I do this more effectively?
Yeah. Love that. And that's which as your leaders, as you're working on that mindset piece and authenticity is hard to fake, by the way. There's a rule around that. It's hard to fake. You can't fake your way into authenticity. But alignment, and we talked a little bit about this before, which is walking the talk with confidence and congruence. It's not just about walking the talk. It's not a, hey, look at me. But it is being humbly confident. We'll get to that point in a moment. But it is being confident in that. And congruence. Congruence means In other words, there's a bunch of things that can go with congruence. I'm in alignment. I'm in consistency. I am, you know that I am there. I've got your back. I'm walking the talk with confidence and congruence. And that's incredibly important for that reframe. And that's a question to ask yourself when you're reframing into that new reality. Am I doing these things? Have I shifted my mindset? Have I moved to valuing authenticity? And am I congruent? Am I confident? It doesn't mean you're not vulnerable.
Right. Confidence does not translate to certainty. There's room for question and answer here, which actually informs part of this empowerment piece. The new reality in today's workplace is people want, particularly the newer generations that are in the workforce today, agency is a big deal. Do you trust that I can do what I'm doing? Don't look over my shoulder. Give me the task and let me go do it, sort of a thing.
Yeah.
So how you non-verbally communicate about that makes a big difference. So non-verbally communicating, you can say it, obviously, I trust you, but non-verbally communicating trust is a big deal. And how you go about doing that is rooted in your belief of the capacity that people have to do what they say they're going to do.
Yeah.
There's that belief component that informs, do I trust them or not? I believe they're competent. I believe that they're capable. I believe, and I've got evidence, consistency. They have consistently shown that I can count on them. All of that stuff kind of translates into this thing where I kind of go, okay, you guys know what the deal is. I trust you to make it happen.
Yeah.
Circle back with me if you got a question.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you mentioned it that way. I would just on a conversation this morning, on an interview I was doing this morning, we were talking about trust was one of the components, and that belief, right? We as humans, we're wired to we want to lean in on that belief. We want to do that. And in my mind, it's my analogy to it was going to your spouse and saying, hey, I want to go on a date with you. And we're going to go on a date where the food is terrible and the band is going to suck.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go. I can't wait.
Yeah, this will be a hoot.
I love you. I mean it.
Yeah, exactly. But very much with it, that I love that concept that you were talking around trust and that leaning in on trust. And it takes practice, leaders. It does take practice. And elegance, leadership effectiveness, right? Assume through the lens of elegance. And that elegance, we define elegance as minimizing unintended consequences. Yep. It is that leadership effectiveness, and it's not just your effectiveness, and it's assumed through that lens of elegance, which hooks into mindset, alignment, empowerment, trust, belief, elegance.
Yep. And co-created coordinated movement. The way that do we have co-created coordinated movement? Well, how elegant is what you're producing? Minimal unintended consequences. Does not mean the absence of conflict, because we want to have diverging points of view able to be surfaced so we can get clarity about what's next.
Yeah.
I don't want a bunch of yes people going, well, yeah, okay, you're the boss, you go ahead. No. Harmony is highly overrated in this regard.
Oh my goodness. Yes, it is. Let's all go along to get along.
That's the point. Yeah. Go along to get along. Not non-starter. That's a non-starter.
Welcome to the spiral of death.
Yes. So influence becomes sustainable when the leader's presence aligns with a meaningful, for the sake of what matters, that worthy ideal. I become that worthy ideal. I mean, that's where the congruency, it lives in me and through me. And I show up that way. And when people see me walking the halls, when they see me out on the plant floor, when they see me in the parking lot, they go, I know what's important to him. I know exactly what's important to him. And it's that for the sake of what matters. Yeah.
Yep.
That sort of thing.
And that sort of thing. Exactly.
And that sort of a thing. Yeah.
Exactly. So let's talk about mindset. So we've talked a little bit about reframing, which is that shift. What do you do to shift? Right? Here's the habit. Here are the things that can go wrong. Here's the symptoms. Here's the reframe. What do you shift? And so what do you focus on? And these are short words, short statements, but don't underestimate the power of the statement by the length of the words on the screen. And a growth mindset. That growth mindset, that is your personal commitment, your personal commitment to grow you and grow them.
Yep.
It is a committed decision. Not to sound emphatic, but it becomes a committed decision to grow. And is it going to be perfect? No. Are there going to be good days, bad days? Yes. If there is no right or wrong, are things going to work and some things not work? Yes. But the growth mindset is that committed decision. I commit to growth. And therefore, I will put a process in place and an approach in place to stay consistent for me and for them.
And because there will be speed bumps, because things will go south, because when things kind of go, there's learning involved, and
because they will.
Because they will. Emotional intelligence. Daniel Goleman, when he first came up with the concept of emotional intelligence, there was I think there were five dimensions that he looked at. The foundational dimension was emotional intelligence. And when they started looking at leader and leadership, emotional intelligence was seen as being up to about 92%. Think about this, up to about 92% of a leader's effectiveness.
Yeah.
The leader's effectiveness was linked directly to his or her emotional intelligence. Okay, what are we talking about? Well, Dolan mentioned earlier about noticing what you're noticing. Awareness, just being aware. That is one of the key things that we want to play with here. When we're looking at awareness, that is the bedrock of emotional intelligence. That's what we work with primarily. Awareness of self. Okay, that triggered me. Where did that come from? So this is how you begin mitigating your bow wake. Awareness of the situation, awareness of your people. What's the story that's out there? So emotionally intelligent has to do with not the absence of emotion. Emotions have a very powerful place in an organization. Emotions have a very powerful place in leadership. It's about the intelligent regulation and use of these emotions, including anger. You're going to get upset when things go south. How do you channel that in a productive and constructive way? All of that. This is a huge piece of this leadership presence conversation, and it is a mindset. It's part of the way that you think about what's going on in your world. In order to do that well, that next one comes into play here.
I just such a good comment around EQ, emotional intelligence. That's very, very important. And as leaders, if we're stuck in that stoic, I'm the John Wayne or the Patton of the business, emotional EQ becomes something that's passive or ignored. And I love the next one, which is humble confidence. And we were chuckling before we hit go, all right, around the comment around if you're not humble, you're about to be. And that humble confidence, leaders, when you think about humble confidence is not passive confidence.
Right.
Humility can be viewed as passive. Well, if I'm humble, it means that I'm going to sit back and I'm going to say, well, what do you think? Because I'm not sure. That humble confidence is your belief and your willingness to state your belief and your experience. Based on your experience, we build our beliefs based on experiences or expectations, to be able to do that, but do it in a vulnerable way, to have that conversation that says, I believe this is it, based on what I've experienced in the past. Tell me about, and then enter into the conversation, enter into co-creating. Humble is the gateway to co-create.
Spot on.
And that's the door. And when you can do that. So when you think about humility. We sometimes hear people and other coaches talking about, to be humble is to be passive. To be humble is not to be passive. You are not there to be passive. You are there to be vulnerable, which means you approach it with a curious mind
and confidence. Which there's a paradox in this because again, when you think of these leaders that people will imagine, the hard charging type out there, it can be confused with arrogance. I'm certain. I mean, confidence can quickly morph into arrogance. And when you've got humble confidence, you poke a hole in that arrogant balloon. And now you're available.
Yeah.
Arrogance will not allow for connection, which moves directly into, you need courage in order to do that. Vulnerability requires, and probably, a better word for, than authenticity in this piece here might be vulnerability. Because that's, kind of authenticity, vulnerability, they kind of, occupy the same space, but it takes courage to be either one of those. Yeah. You've got to be willing. And this, this is an interesting take on trust. Do people trust you? Well, they either do or they don't. But the real question is, do you trust yourself to handle the consequence of being open, of being vulnerable? Do you trust yourself to handle what will come at you when you go, I'm not real clear about our next step here. Let's have a conversation. What do you think? Now, that takes the leader's role, and it kind of collapses a lot of people's thinking about, well, you're the boss. You tell me what to do. Well, no, co-creating coordinated movement means that we're going to have a conversation here. Humble confidence. You don't lose who you are. You don't lose self by opening up authenticity, but it takes courage to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I think that's such a key component of trust is courage, is the right kind of courage.
Yeah.
There is an old John Wayne quote around that I saw, and he quoted somebody else saying this, but his definition of courage was the willingness to get on a horse and ride into the battle with wet pants.
Yep. I like that.
And then the last, of course, is proactivity and strategic thinking. Look, leaders, this is without you spending a lot of time here, one of the notions of proactivity is that concept of I'm expecting myself to constantly be out in front of my team. And proactivity is that you are expecting yourself to be prepared to be out in front of your team, and you've allotted for the time to strategically think about what that looks like.
That white space.
Yep, you build those together, and without getting into it, when call Blaine or call us, and we can help you with that. There's a sin that leaders make. This was in a meeting I was in yesterday. When we delegate and we give people tasks, we end up with gaps in our calendar, and we tend to fill that with more do.
Yeah.
So allow yourself the opportunity to think proactively, which is to be prepared and you do that by strategic thinking. Allow yourself that, and that's a mindset. Grant yourself permission, because there is value in that activity.
Spot on. Love that.
There you go.
So,
Doctor,
when you're working this, governing behaviors, what does this look like? I mean, it's one thing to have the conceptual framing, but if it's not translated into behavior, all you've heard is two old white guys talking. And
right in the middle of a swallow. Yeah.
Yeah. So here, I mean, this is just the little ways of thinking about presence. How do you handle when things kind of go south? When somebody runs into your office with their hair on fire? Another word for composure is equanimity.
Good word.
remaining calm, focused, and steady under pressure. Yeah, you got the board coming at you. You got your management team coming at you. You got rebellion in the ranks. Do you have the ability to hold the center? I came across something the other day. I've been meditating since the early 1970s, and for me, meditation has always been around, finding that calm space, that centered space.
Sure.
And what's interesting about meditation here is it's not so much about that centered space, while you're meditating. It's, do you have the ability to find the calm in the middle of the storm while you're actually living?
Oh, love
You
that.
have the ability to find the calm in the center. Yeah. Yeah. So in every storm, there's that center. There's that eye, the eye of the storm, where it's just, okay. And at that point, you have resourcefulness. You can turn in a lot of different directions and you can access a lot of different things because you're not being thrown by the winds and everything else. So composure, remaining calm, focused and steady under pressure.
Yeah, love that. And in communication, and I'll again, we've used the word clarity before, but it's in this context, when you're speaking with clarity, it is that you are the inverse of that is you are not ambiguous. It is not, you are not ambiguous, and you're in clarity. Brevity doesn't mean that you're sharp angle. Brevity doesn't mean I have my clarity, I'm going to say it in 2 words. Brevity at that point means you add appropriate, in my mind, brevity is context. You add the appropriate context to the clarification to what you're talking about. So brevity becomes context. And when you're thinking about it, think in terms of context and then impact. While active, the most important words are the last 3 words. While actively listening. But what'll happen, leaders, is you'll end up in this scenario, and I'm guilty of this because I've been married 39 years, where periodically someone is saying something to me. And while that is occurring, I am thinking about my response before they get to the period at the end of the sentence. So in communicating, you are speaking with clarity. You are speaking with brevity and context, and you're speaking with impact. Which means where are we going with this? While you're actively listening, and that's a reciprocal statement from a communication behavior perspective. And that's something to train your team in. Yeah. When you come speak with me, speak in these tones and help them with that.
Yeah. So this goes directly back to the bow weight conversation again. What's too much? What's too little? And that demonstrating, active listening sort of a thing is, how is this landing? How is what I'm communicating landing? Yeah. And I can see it, I can hear it, I can sense it, I can smell it, I can, all of those things. So, and part of that active listening is not a passive quietude. It's an active. I noticed that when I said this, you kind of pulled back a little bit. Is there something there that I should know about? So that's disarming. It also invites participation, co-creating coordinated movement. So in order to do that, well, confidence and credibility. Yeah, interesting thing about projecting assurance.
Oh, yeah.
It's not about projecting certainty. It's about projecting assurance. So I think we've got this right. I think we've got this pretty well buttoned up. There's probably about 80. There may be a 10% piece here that we aren't quite sure about, but we're moving forward on this and demonstrating expertise. I've done this before. This isn't our first rodeo. And things went south a couple of times, but we were able to recover quickly because we had done some scenario planning. We had plan B and plan C in place, and people kind of go, oh, okay,
yeah. Shoulders relax. Okay, all right. Yeah. We're not going to die. Nobody's dying today. Then authenticity and character. Acting with integrity, honesty, and transparency. And we've talked a little bit about this, so I'm not going to belabor this a lot, but it is that integrity. which is show up, do what you say you're going to do. There's a lot of things that come into that integrity: consistency, congruence, acting with integrity. And this is reciprocal again. All of these governing behaviors are not just for you. Honesty is the willingness to have the conversation. There's an art to the conversation, but honesty is a willingness to have the conversation. Dishonesty is an unwillingness to tell the truth. Therefore, I'm going to withhold.
Yep.
And when you withhold, you inflict harm, no matter how difficult or how challenging. And transparency, again, is that vulnerable part. That's that piece. And so when we talk about authenticity and character, and there's so many more parts, it really is that integrous. How am I being integrous? Yep. And then am I willing to be honest with you? And there's methods. You can look at radical candor, and if you need help, call us and we'll tell you how to do it. Honestly, we'll tell you how to do it.
And we'll tell you how to get a hold of us a little bit later.
Yeah, we will. And transparency, same thing.
Yeah. Which allows for connection. I mean,
yes.
How do people feel about themselves when they're in your presence? Do they feel valued? You can notice this stuff. Empathy, warmth, can facilitate that. You're not managing their feelings. It's not about singing Kumbaya around the campfire. It's really about, empathetically connecting. This you might find this to be disruptive, and I understand that you're probably not going to like some of the stuff we're doing here, and I can imagine how you might feel. That's empathetic, and it's an invitation. You disarm them when you have that kind of a conversation, and it's the ability to have others feel valued. We're in this together, co-creating coordinated movement in pursuit of that worthy ideal, which moves us into the body language piece, which is really about walking the talk in so many ways. But when we think about communication, Albert Mehrabian years ago did this study. It's been misrepresented in a couple of different ways, and I may as well misrepresent it as right now too.
Here's another way.
Here's another way of misrepresenting it. But essentially what his study showed, and it's a very simple way of explaining it, is that I'm communicating with you, and there's an information packet that gets delivered. Okay. That information packet is what you respond to. That's the communication that's taken place here. Only 7% of that packet is contained in the words that I actually end up using. 93% is in this nonverbal domain, body language, respiration rate, dilation of my eyes, large motor, things as well as very tiny little minuscule sorts of things. We are continuously sourcing information, and that packet that I deliver to my client, to my team, has got not just words, it's got a whole bunch of stuff involved in it, which is why we want to come back to congruency. The more you can find yourself able to be congruent and aligned with the message where it lives in you, the less you're going to have to worry about is the medium actually delivering what I intend it to do.
Yeah, so good. I enjoyed that. That was really good.
Did you like that one a lot? Yeah,
that was good. That was all right.
Okay.
All right. Why the hell does this matter? Of course, that's what the slide doesn't say. That it says why this matters. But look, we talk. There's three big words there: effective leadership, presence, influencing others. The root statement of the definition of leadership. It matters. It matters because boosts your credibility and influence. With credibility and influence as a leader, the love in the body of the team for you and for them, because you are credible and you influence that, you move mountains.
Yep.
Your team will move mountains. You move credibility and influence. Let me rephrase that. If you're looking, and the key word is a lot of organizations. When Blaine and I coach together, a lot of companies come to us and go, "I want to scale." one of the very first limiting factors to that possibility is credibility and influence.
Yep.
Without those two, you're done. You can push till the cows come home.
You do this well, everybody grows. I mean, it's probably as simple as that. People will follow people that they like. I'll just kind of put it in like. Presence is a liking dynamic. When it's context specific, I like leaders that exhibit these qualities. And so at church, I like a leader that exhibits this quality. In my business environment, I like a leader that exhibits this presence, this sort of. So there's some situational dynamics that come into play here that I'm matching. Okay, I'm not being, it's kind of like, when we think about leadership presence, you're thinking about it in the context of, or at least metaphorically, you can think of it as what suit of clothes do I have on right now, and is it appropriate for the room I'm in? Okay, I'm not going to wear a tuxedo to the gym. Okay, if I did that, I would probably be seen as completely out of place. So my career growth path is going to be stunted a little bit here. Okay, so how flexible am I in taking a tuxedo off and putting on my gym clothes? Do I feel comfortable in both suits, as an example? That's one of the things that we're looking at. The better we are at that, the greater likelihood we're going to have success along whatever trajectory we have found ourselves, kind of moving through. Facilitates career growth. Yeah,
love that. And then I'll get to the last bullets quickly. We've talked about building confidence and trust. We've talked about improving communication. We talked about enhancing impact. Get to the last. Leadership presence is the X factor that transforms a competent individual into a credible leader. Or you could put the word in front of credible.
Incredible leader.
Incredible leader. But if there is a difference between competency, a competent leader who can, they can, one of my favorite board of directors statements is, they can get the job done. That's a competency statement. They're a competent individual. Incredible is defined by the board of directors, leaders. When you hear the statement, I would love to see what they can do with this.
Yeah.
I wonder where they can take this.
Yep.
And that permeates not at the C-suite only, it permeates at the VP level, the director level, the manager level, whatever chewy nougat you've built. Those two statements. They can do it. The dishwasher can cook. Put the dishwasher on the line. He can cook.
Yeah.
Or let's see what they can do with this. That's incredible leaders. That's where you're looking. That's why this whole conversation today around presence is important to you and to your team.
You kind of go right back up to the top of those bullet points here. Effective leadership presence. We all have leadership presence. We all have presence. When we walk into a room, when we walk into any environment, there's a presence.
Yeah.
We're looking at, is it effective? Leaders cause movement. Everybody's a leader by that definition, because everybody's causing movement all the time. And we do it through our presence. The question that highly incredible leaders work with is the movement I'm causing before I ever open my mouth getting us closer to where I want to go? That's one thing that we start to, and it's a conscious, deliberate, and intentional developmental process. I'm paying attention to it. That's what we want to, and it's about effectiveness and impact. So
there you go.
This is how it happens. All of this stuff is organized around mindset. It's make no mistake, consciousness is the first cause of everything we experience in life. And another word for consciousness is mindset. And this whole notion of mindset, it's belief systems, the paradigm structures that we operate off of, our value core, I mean, all of those things comprise our mindset, and most of it is not examined. We don't really know, most people don't really know what is in that box. Yeah, that you hear the term "get out of the box." Well, the box they're talking about is the mindset box that is essentially a prison for most people. Highly
Yeah.
effective leaders recognize that there's more to the world than is contained in their mindset. Oh gosh, I forget the guy's name here. American humorist Will Rogers.
Oh,
There's more to me than is contained between my hat and my boots.
yes.
Yeah, there's more to me than is contained between my hat and my boots. I show up. Mindset is how that gets expressed.
Yeah. Love that. Awesome.
So, yep. So mindset leads us into the leadership alignment system, which is where the work that Dolan and I do is around what we call the ACT model, leaders cause movement. They do that through how they act. And ACT is a acronym for awareness, context, communication, commitment, and trust. So the work we do with leaders is organized around those 5 domains. And when we look at it through the lens of scalability, why would we pay attention to ACT? Well, because it allows us to more elegantly, and I use the word elegant, minimal unintended consequences, scale our business, sustain growth. Sustainable success. Here's a definition that we can play with. It's about developing the capacity to continuously start over. And when you're scaling your organization, and I don't care if it's a volunteer organization or a for-profit business, do you have the capacity in yourself and in your organization to continuously start over? That's where presence makes a big difference. I'm confident that I can do this. That humble sense of, not certainty, but that humble sense of confidence. We can do this. Assurance. That comes into play here. So
Nicely said.
that is today's Power of You.
There you go. So I'm going to re-echo what Blaine talked about earlier. One of the things with the Power of You, we created this series, now 50 some odd episodes in there. That's a lot of episodes. Leaders, for the opportunity for you to leverage this content, leverage this information to not only improve your leadership, but improve the leadership of your teams, the body of your organization. So at the bottom, you see a Sharon going by for Power of You. We heartily recommend go to that, look at the website, look at Power of You as a component of library for your organization. The second part is not all of this, even when you see the videos and you add it in, not all of it can you do by yourself. So if there is if you have a question on, hey, I'm thinking about how to do this, I'm not sure how to do it, reach out and engage with Blaine and I, and you can do that through the comments on the platform that this is broadcast on. It's broadcast on, goodness gracious, many platforms today. But re-engage with us. It does not mean you engage us in a professional capacity. If that is where it goes, that takes care of itself. That becomes evident. In the meantime, a short conversation sometimes can help you move mountains and get things done quicker and get to that next level. And then when it's appropriate, if it's appropriate for us to help you, we'll do that later. The most important thing is, how do you move that mountain today? So leaders, my encouragement is comment to us, reach out to us. We'll reach out to you and set up a time and have a conversation. It's short.
There you go. So, right. And I'm going to put something in here real quick. Info. Okay, we're going to scroll this across the bottom here. Okay.
Here it comes.
Show. There we go.
There it is.
So you can send an email. Send an email to us if you want to schedule a conversation. And again, it's it's not a sales thing, but if you got questions about anything that we've looked at here today, there's an email. There's an email that you can get to that will give us an opportunity to have a chat with you. So feel free to take advantage of it.
Please do that. Someday I'm going to change mine to Edna. I'm going to have people start reaching out to Edna. Edna at dolandwhite.com.
Okay.
All
Folks, thank you for listening. Greatly appreciate it. We'll see you next Thursday.
We'll be here.
We will be here. Check us out on all of the favorite places: Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok.
Yeah.
Wherever. I don't know where we're at, but we're everywhere. They need us everywhere. We are everywhere. So
some of us are and some of us aren't. But find us. We're there.
We're available. Okay.
All right.
See you next week.
Doctor.